All right, let's talk Texas Longhorns football here for a second. Texas is a team, obviously, over the past couple off seasons that's made a lot of moves at the skill position. Of course, the addition of Arch Manning, the growth of Quinn Ewers, a lot of skill players, of course, on offense and on defense coming into the fold. And this is one of the more explosive teams in college football. Certainly was that way in 2023. It looks to be that very similar in 2024. But the Texas Longhorns, like a lot of smart programs, understand that really long-term success outside the quarterback position is dependent on getting high-quality, tough, physical guys in the trenches, and that's why it's great news that the Texas Longhorns have made a big move to address that in the future. Let's get into this article, then we'll talk about it in detail on the other side. This is courtesy of 24/7 Sports. Cedar Hill interior offensive linemen and twin brothers Jordan and Devin Coleman have committed to Texas. The duo accounts for two of the most coveted targets on the board in 2025, so we're talking the out years here, for offensive line coach Kyle Flood. The brothers ultimately chose the Longhorns over Oklahoma, Texas Tech, Baylor, Southern Methodist, and University of Texas San Antonio. They've both been to the 40 acres twice in the 2024 calendar year. They attended Texas's January 20th Junior Day and returned later in the spring for the Longhorn City Limits recruiting event on April 6th. All right, these are two literally massive moves for the Texas Longhorns. I think it's a smart strategy for Texas. But Mize, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. But Texas fans first in the comment section below. Look, obviously, transition to the SEC coming up, 2024 season. A lot of really interesting and exciting matchups for Texas based on their schedule so far. But I'm going to make you pick one. What matchup are you looking forward to for the 2024 Texas Longhorns to go up against, and put it in the comment section below. But Mize, give me your thoughts on this latest move by Texas and what it means for them going forward.
Yeah, Nick, I think this is a big step forward for Texas in this recruiting cycle because they've had some competition in the state of Texas. Most notably, Oklahoma has been all over the state of Texas for this 2025 class. They have 7 guys from the state of Texas. Most notably, a big O-line commit, Ryan Foje, came over to Oklahoma this recruiting cycle. They got him right out of the state of Texas. So I was really looking for Texas to come back and start to kind of hit up the offensive line position. They already had one guy, they had Jackson Christian in Texas, but they really need to get some more offensive linemen, like you said. They've been great at the skill position. We all know that. But coming over into the SEC, as Oklahoma knows, and they're doing the same kind of strategy, but still trying to take all the talent out of Texas, you got to build the trenches to play in the SEC. It's a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, a little bit faster competition there, and this is exactly what Texas has done, and I love it. Twofold, you're getting twin brothers. That's pretty awesome if they're playing on the same offensive line at the same time. 6'5", 350, 6'4", 340, respectively, both out of the state of Texas, obviously. Now, kicking Texas counter up to 6 guys they've now recruited out of the state of Texas for this 2025 class. So I think this is a big move by Coach Sarkisian and almost an answer to Oklahoma coming in and really getting all these guys out of the state of Texas. He's like, listen, this is our state. I'm going to start making some statements, no pun intended, in the state of Texas and getting a lot of great players coming over. We're here every day. We can see guys that are maybe a little bit underrated, bring them into the fold, and absolutely dominate the state of Texas. That's what I want to see from Texas, especially now moving into the SEC. They've really got to keep a hold on their state, cement themselves into the SEC this season, show that they belong, and then they can start branching out again and recruiting all over the country nationally. But I think just first and foremost that this was a must-win get for the Longhorns to be able to get these 2 guys and kind of come back into the state of Texas and say, hey, this is where we recruit. We know the players here, and getting 2 guys on the offensive line, I think checks so many boxes for the Longhorns.
Well, yeah, and I think it's important to understand that, and I understand Texas fans, you guys watching this, you look at the recruiting rankings for the Coleman brothers, they don't exactly jump off the page. Jordan Coleman is, according to 24/7 Sports, is the 38th offensive tackle in the class, and Devin Coleman's the 37th interior offensive line, right? So they don't jump off the page as top flight superstar recruits. But here's the thing I will say, and it's very, very important. recruiting rankings when it comes to offensive line are almost essentially meaningless, right? It is impossible to project. I don't say impossible. It's almost impossible to project how an offensive lineman will transition to the next level from high school to college, because so many high school offenses and strategies they use are just completely different than what you're going to be doing at the college level. Look, if you're one of these guys, if you're Jordan Coleman and you're 6'5", 350, right? If you go up against a 260-pound five-star 1 week, you're going to look like not as good of a player as if maybe you're a 6'5", 350 dude playing in Minnesota, and you're going up against, on Friday night, you're going up against a 5'10", 180-pound defensive end, and you pancake him 30 times, right? That's usually how this all shakes out when it's all said and done, especially early in the cycle. A lot of these recruiting services, they look at film and they say, this guy's killing everybody. Yeah, but he's playing in North Dakota, right? Of course he's killing everybody. He's 6'3", 330. Anybody who's that big would kill people that are going up against someone half their size. I like the Coleman twins here because they're going against top-flight Texas competition, and they're holding their own and doing a really good job. I think that is a good indicator for Texas going forward. And I think you really got to trust offensive line coach Kyle Flood here. He's a guy, I think, he obviously spent a lot of time at Rutgers, but Nick Saban chose him to be his offensive line coach for a couple of years before Flood went to Texas. Flood knows SEC football. He knows what it takes to win. He won a national title one of those years with Alabama. So he understands what he needs up front to win in the SEC. In fact, he was deeply involved with those high-flying Alabama offenses where he had those great receivers and great quarterbacks for a couple of years there. But they were really good up front as well. People forget that about that Alabama era, that 2019, 2020, 2021 Crimson Tide team. And Flood gets that. Flood's like, okay, listen, we've got the same kind of caliber skill position, guys. We've got great quarterbacks. But just like those Alabama teams, we need to be great up front as well. I need to identify guys who I think can help us in the long term build a deep quality offensive line. And it doesn't matter what they're ranked today. It all depends on what they could grow into being in the Texas locker room, being in the Texas weight room, coached by Flood, going through that entire process, right? And that's what's really important here. He's trying to find these guys that he can mold into future star offensive linemen. And I think both of these kids right here, both these Coleman twins, they have all the physical tools. They play top flight competition in Texas. And I trust Kyle Flood that he knows what he's doing. I think this will turn out to be a really big move for the Texas Longhorns.